Good afternoon, everyone, or morning. It's that kind of day. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels. We are going back to that horrible place known as the JRC. But before we do the usual disclaimers, and we're just going to get right into it. In the description box, you're going to find a link to the article that the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center doesn't want you to read. It's written by NeuroClastic, a small non-for-profit started by autistics for autistics, wherein they interviewed and surveyed over 900 ABA professionals in regards to the JRC's so-called behavior modification program. Matter of fact, the JRC doesn't want you to read this article so much. They have threatened NeuroClastic with a defamation lawsuit if they did not remove it from the website. Well, folks, NeuroClastic has refused, so you know the drill. Please read that article and share on all your social media. Also included is NeuroClastic's public statement regards to the defamation lawsuit threat, as well as a link to their GoFundMe. We are crowdfunding in case the JRC actually sees through with their threat. Also included in there, the Ozark's first article in regards to Agape boarding school, now known as Stone for Help boarding school situation, a so-called Christian-themed boarding school based out of Stockton, Missouri that takes in so-called troubled male teens that has impending over 21 civil lawsuits, claims, and allegations leveled against it, all which have been substantiated by the Missouri Department of Social Services, and they include the following: sodomy, rape, sexual assault, child abuse, psychological and emotional abuse, child trafficking, starvation, and that's just for starters. You have one former staff member arrested by the FBI, another a doctor still on the premises with full access to the boys up on multiple, again, substantiated claims of sodomy, rape, and sexual assault of the boys there. You have an attorney general too busy chasing after drag queens and trying and failing to defund public libraries to actually do his job. And you got a governor off his nuts. So please read that article and share it on all your social media. We got the other pertinent links to the Stop the Shocks campaign as well, including Autistic Hoya's massive archive on the subject, Jennifer Masumba's behavioral sheet of shockable offenses, a clip out of the 7-hour ordeal undergone by Andre McCollins back in 2002, the templates, and the ever-present, self-explanatory, change.org, shut the Judge Rotenberg Center down petition. When we discuss the JRC, folks, you're going to hear vivid descriptions of and catch clips of surveillance footage of people with disabilities being tortured and abused. If you got young children present, folks, please use the headphones. Trigger warning, this channel is marked not for children for a reason. We use profanity on occasion and speak on dark subjects. If your child is 16 and younger and they're watching this, very obviously parental supervision is advised. Now remember, we're going over a New England law review that was written in the 80s by a student very much kept in the mentality that controlling people with disabilities by any means necessary, as long as we behave in a way that makes them feel comfortable, is going to be a prevalent theme throughout the entirety of this. So trigger warning for that in advance, all right? I'm going to have 15 million cows by the time I'm done with this, I'm telling you. Telling you now. All right. As other students were experiencing severe regression due to discontinuance of their aversive therapy treatments, more petitions for guardianship and substitute judgment determinations were filed, resulting in orders restoring aversive therapy to these students as well. This is the mentality that we're living in, folks. But they're no longer allowed to beat, pinch, and cause harm to these kids, so now they're acting out. We got to get them under control again. Please, 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 Judge, allow them to continue to abuse our children. And if you think that that's not going on now, it is. It may not be quite as blatant as it is throughout probably what we're going to see through the majority of this paper. It's more psychological harm, except in the case of the JRC where it's still very much physical, but it is still there, folks. It's still a whole area of science dedicated into trying to force us to be neurotypical. I've literally had parents ask me, have you tried not being so autistic? Which amuses me. Because every time I go out in public, I'm wearing a mask. That mask is modeled off of neurotypicals. In particular, those neurotypicals who are considered highly socialized and successful. So for those individuals to still feel that that is weird, my mask is my commentary on the neurotypical world, as it is with all autistics and neurodivergent folk who've had to make a mask or two. Perhaps taking a look in the mirror wouldn't be out of line. A petition by OFC for a safe stay of these orders was denied. Of course it was. It's always legal to beat us into submission, isn't it, you freaking psychopaths? OFC appealed this denial to the Massachusetts Appellate Court, who upheld the lower court's order and directed in effect that all parties should work to resolve this matter in the best interests of the students. The best interests. Sign me up! I'd rather be shot. I can tell you if they would have sent me to a place like this what my mother would do, but then I'd probably be banned from the platform. A team was organized under the direction of Judge Ernest Rotenberg, First Justice of the Bristol County Probate and Family Court. This team was charged with the specific obligation to evaluate and recommend treatment plans suitable for the most severely handicapped students. Again, I find it completely and utterly bizarre that we have judges who went to law school, not the medical school, but the law school, deciding anyone's treatment program. They are not the parent, they are not the student, they are not the medical professionals. But we apparently out in Massachusetts are allowing the courts full of lawyers who went to law school, not medical school, to make these types of decisions. Yeah. Let's think on that one real quick. It was the team's duty to negotiate in good faith and to act in the best interests of the children of BRI. I'm sorry, but how could they? How are they supposed to do that with a law school education, not a medical degree? These are not psychologists. These are not psychiatrists. These are not specialists. These are not people who have any, and hear me on this, any experience whatsoever at all when it comes to mental health or those who are developmentally disabled like moi. None. Zip. Zilch. Nada. But we're going to give these people the judgment. We're going to give them the judgment call on these treatment programs. It's a joke. And guess who gets to suffer consequences? Because it's not neurotypical Karen over there who's having a fit because her son stims and she's embarrassed. We get to pay that price. In case anyone's wondering, we get to pay that price. Kind of like we're doing right now out in Missouri, where autistics get to pay the price because everyone's scared of trans people. When I told you it was a slippery slope, we've only begun. Please get me out of here because I can't do it myself or I would have been gone years ago. While the team was still in the process of devising suitable programs that would provide BRI students with the best possible treatment, OFC issued a directive restricting the choice of treatments available for use at BRI facilities, as they fucking should. Excuse me, I did say we curse on this channel on occasion. This directive was contrary to the agreement to negotiate in good faith. Okay. Please forgive OFC, who stood up for us and said that the torture must end. But they're not negotiating in good faith, though. They put the children and their well-being above negotiating in good faith. And I say, Good for them. And somebody should have. Are you kidding me right now? This and seriously hampered the efforts of the team. As a result, the family court conducted 4 days of hearings, which culminated in the issuance of a preliminary injunction against OFC to prohibit any action by it to suspend the license of BRI, limit intake of students, or ban the use of physical aversives until a hearing on the merits of all petitions for guardianship and substitute judgments detriments had occurred. I want you to think about this. Because every time Matthew Israel or his acolyte Glenda Cook like to use this whole thing, but they sign up on our licenses every year, look at this. And remember it. The truth is, they've had this particular office and its many different incarnations since then, over a barrel since the 80s. They're not allowed to revoke their license. Okay? The Massachusetts courts have subceded their authority to be able to look after the health of the students and the other consumers under their jurisdiction and have removed from them their authority to be able to do so for the JRC. The reason why they haven't intervened is because the Massachusetts courts will not allow them to intervene. Kind of completely voids Matthew Israel's and Glenda Cook's argument, but they sign off on our licenses every year, so obviously they agree. Obviously they don't, Karen. Hence why, in the state of Massachusetts, your school is the only one that continues to do this. They're not signing off because they're giving their signature of approval. They're signing off because they know with your infinite access to funds, you will drag them into the court. And as I've explained before, when I've worked in this particular field, those offices are already working on a shoestring budget, one that Republicans continue to drain with impunity every single year. We do not have access to unlimited funds. We cannot fight places like the JRC that are bloated by the wealth that they get from the torture of their students forever. Okay? Also to be heard was a class action lawsuit which instituted by BRI, all parents and students against OFC, requesting injunction relief, money damages, and an award of attorney's fees. You can see obviously whose side the lawyer's on. It doesn't matter to them that these kids are being tortured. It doesn't matter to them that every single moment of their lives is a living hell. It doesn't matter that they are literally living the stuff that is the fuel for nightmares for neurotypicals and disabled people alike. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. We gotta control those crazy autistics, right? If you want to know what makes autistics go crazy and have meltdowns, it's this shit! Okay? It is people continuously within the medical model and outside of it coming up with new ways every single year to try and control us and force us to be neurotypical. Okay? All it does is teach us how to perfect our masks. The longer you keep us forced to live a mask day in and day out, the faster we're likely to end up in autistic burnout and end up far more disabled than ever we were before we were forced to put on the mask in the first place. You are never, ever going to beat, torture, starve, sleep deprive, or sexually assault or physically assault the disability out of us. It's never going to happen. Okay? The only thing you're going to do is compound upon the issues that are already there, which means when that threat of violence is removed, you can't be surprised or shocked when that behavior comes back worse than ever before. Because instead of dealing with the problem, you've gone and created other problems. Instead of trying to examine the root core and dealing with the triggering issue that is the cause of the fall of dominoes, you focus on the wrong things. And as long as that root is there, the behavior is there. Until you deal with it, it will continue to be there. And the more you try to torture and abuse it out or try to psychologically mind us to behave in a way that makes you feel comfortable, there it will be. And we're going to go ahead and close on that. We don't get very many views on this channel. The few that we do get do tend to get removed from time to time. So please don't forget to hit the like button, hit subscribe, and don't forget to hit the comments. I do appreciate your time. As always, we here at Spilling Tea hope you have a good one. I'm going to go kick my own ass again. It's the sports bra and the coat. Bye, everyone.